We are nothing, Josh. Nothing.
Woo!
We
Love
are.
the enthusiasm.
I know, right? I am. I'm
good.
super excited. First podcast, and we are Freshly Squeezed Nerd, and basically we're just a bunch of friends. We've been friends for a while, and we want to do this podcasting thing. So this is our first podcast. Hopefully, one of millions to come. I think that's an episode per second.
We can do it.
I think we can do it.
I think we're kind of lowballing the number though.
Lowballing? Shit, 2 million?
Bajillion.
Bajillion?
One of those made up numbers.
One of those made up
It's
numbers.
really high.
Triquadrillion.
And yeah, we basically want to talk about video games, comics, movies, sci-fi, anything that makes the nerd go round. And that is not a fat joke. And I'm going to introduce...
I was about to say, man, come on.
My name is Kenneth, and my two co-hosts behind me, or beside me. Wow, that's all.
Behind you?
Behind
Did you say
me?
behind you?
No, I did
Wow.
not. Beside me.
I know where your mind's at.
I got Will to my right, and I got Josh to my left. We've been friends for over amount of years. We enjoy gaming when we can. We've got a lot of gaming history. I've been in playing games for myself over 20 years. Been in the video game business a little bit, trying to, and this is kind of my way of trying to get back into it. So, Will, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, the same. I've been gaming ever since I could pick up a Nintendo controller. I've got lots of memories, great memories during my childhood, you know, playing games as a kid and pissing off my parents because I wouldn't get off the console and
Take out the trash.
like I remember my mom, like this old memory of a Super Nintendo. I wouldn't stop playing and my mom just comes over and rips out the cartridge off the top of the system. But yeah, ever since I was a kid I've been playing. Also enjoy like the, you know, comic book movies, not so much as into comics as I would like to, but you know, comic book movies, the comic book TV shows like the old animated series. I'm really into those fantasy stuff. So yeah, I mean, and I like to party. So that's about me in a nutshell. I'm pretty boring.
Awesome.
But-
no, little modest. Well, you get a little couple brewskis
I'll watch my language from now on. I blame that on the alcohol. Sorry.
We're not drinking, by the way.
I'm drinking some O'Doul's.
O'Doul's.
It's delicious.
I thought it was pronounced Odell's.
Depends on what part of the country you're in.
I gotcha.
O'Doul's.
Odell's. Okay, Josh, how about a little bit about you?
The wheels of this podcast is already starting to fall apart. I'm just saying. So yeah, my name is Josh. I've very similar to these guys. I've been gaming as long as I can remember, all the way back to the original Nintendo. Very much into comics and sci-fi, very tech savvy. I do a lot of reading, very much of like the superheroes of the comics and the movies, and I like at the same time I like the nice games that kind of get you relaxed, but then at the same time I like the very in-depth gaming that, you know, makes you think and you can put multiple hours into that whole end of the spectrum. So I used to be in the video game industry for about 6 years, and then I got out of that, and Ken came to me with this opportunity to kind of get back into it, and, you know, why not? You know, why not talk about, you know, we have these same discussions sitting here at a restaurant, but instead, why don't we just, you know, do it in the podcast and let y'all listen to it and get y'all's feedback off of
Yeah,
it.
I've always listened to a lot of podcasts. I was like, man, I've always wanted to do that. I like to do that. It looks fun. So
It does. And real quick, we're hoping to do more than just podcasting. You know, posting videos, live streaming games,
acupressure.
Which I think Josh has a PhD in that, by the way. So
That's false, but okay.
ultimately, we're looking to take this as far as our listeners are wanting to take it to go. So, in a nutshell, like us on Facebook, like us on Twitter, follow us. Anything YouTube, iTunes, we'll be posting to. The more likes we get, The more feedback we get, the more we can do with this. And
Shameless promotion.
and the sky is the limit. So after all that sappy stuff, let's get into it. What we really want to talk about is the good stuff. And what I mean by that is first of all, I want to know is what have you been doing in the last week or so, Will, that you think is the most important thing to talk about?
Well, actually, probably yesterday, I've been looking forward to Amazing Spider-Man 2 for a long time. Finally went to see it. Yesterday I didn't get to go on opening day, but finally got to see that. Overall, pretty decent movie. Don't want to say any spoilers. Don't want to ruin it.
Spoiler alert!
Definitely recommend it, but it definitely is a pretty weak movie as far as like comic book movies go. I usually have pretty high expectations for comic book movies. This one kind of drags here and there, but overall it's a good movie. Not a good comic book movie though, as far as how much entertainment.
So with all the recent comic book movies that have been out the last couple of years, where would this fall in that?
Definitely in the lower half.
Okay.
Yeah, easily. Especially because I saw Captain America 2 a little while ago, and that's one of the best ones I've seen easily in a long time. And it's hard going from seeing something as great as that to, a very mediocre comic book movie. That kind of sets your expectations pretty high. Like, man, it's so cool what they can do with this kind of stuff. But
And just so people know, those are both Marvel, owned products or characters, but one's produced by Sony Entertainment, and the other
one's just Marvel,
and one's Marvel Studios with their own studios.
Well, Disney Marvel.
Yeah, they're still Marvel Studios, where they don't have any control of the product that they put out for Amazing Spider-Man. And I think we can all agree that all the Marvel ones done within the last couple of years have been really great.
I agree. And you have like the past few Spider-Mans, counting Spider-Man 3, the first Amazing Spider-Man, and this one, it seems kind of stale. It seems kind of just, they're just, milking the product at this point. They're not really giving fans the storylines they really want to see. Or when they do, in my case, Venom, I love Venom as a character. He's awesome. And then in 3, they kind of just ruin it.
Movie character.
Terrible. And
I'd say
it's a big disappointment.
Yeah,
big disappointment.
I would say it's safe to bet to say that at least mostly everyone has seen the third Spider-Man and knows what we're talking about. So that's not too big of a spoiler. But I definitely agree. Out of just Marvel characters in general, not talking about villains or, good guys, Venom is just an awesome character.
Yeah, and Spider-Man has some of the best villains in the Marvel universe, I think.
And they've transitioned to other bad guys and other Marvel characters as well. That's how good they are in the comic books. They've done that.
Exactly. And it's a shame that, I don't know, it just seems like if Marvel actually had a hold of it and was making the movies, I think you'd see a lot more satisfaction.
Well, look at the
movies.
Look at the other Marvel movies that have been produced by different companies. You had the Fantastic Four, those two movies, and they're trying. to
Jessica Alba's the highlight of
both
of them.
But the movies,
acting,
no,
but
visually, good to look at. But I mean, as a whole, I agree. Fantastic Four is kind of,
and that was done by Fox. And then you had the X-Men movies, which I say would be the anomaly of the non-Marvel owned productions. With maybe the exception of X-Men 3, a lot of people didn't like it.
Even like X-Men Origins Wolverine, like the first Wolverine movie, was kind of weak.
Those two, that's because you got X-Men 3 and then you had the X-Men Origins. You had that, they were both consecutive, but the first two were done really well because you had, Bryan Singer that worked on. You had someone completely different that worked on the third one and then the Wolverine Origins one. But it seems like with the Wolverine that just came out last summer, which is a great movie.
It's like heading in the right direction.
And then the new Days of Future Past coming out.
Even X-Men First Class.
And X-Men First Class.
Awesome.
They kind of went back. They kind of got back onto it. But eventually, Marvel/Disney is wanting to acquire all those other ones. They're going to, once those contracts expires, they're going to buy those suckers up. So they can make their own
especially, Avengers is like their big thing. So you've got a lot of storylines in the comics where Spider-Man is with the Avengers.
Yeah.
Same with like Wolverine, Fantastic Four, even some of the X-Men too. You've got a lot of potential for some really just cool movies that you could do there.
Well, the thing about Spider-Man is out of all the heroes, he's one of the most iconic. I'm not saying the most, but you have to arguably say that he's up there in the top as far as fan base, popularity, just deals that he has out there, comic books, movies, you know, TV
Toys,
shows,
yeah.
toys, everything. And it's like, when are they going to get it right? Because, you know, the first three were okay, but I still felt disappointed. And then even the reboot of the first one, I thought it was better than the first three, but it still felt like something was missing.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like they kind of need to get a, you know, not to go off from Marvel into DC, but look what they did with Batman, you know, and then even look what they did with Superman.
Like the newer ones just have a whole different tone than the older movies, but it's like Batman especially.
Oh,
It's like the older Batman movies like eventually got just silly.
Yeah,
Like they just
comical.
they were well, it's a comic books. I mean, you understand that, but when they went in that direction of just really dark and gritty, it really matched the character really well, and it's what people wanted to see.
It matches the Batman character for sure. And I think one reason that people love, I think you can say Spider-Man and Batman are probably towards the top as they're most relatable, because they both had like a tragic story to begin with. They both had people that died before they became who they were as far as their superhero
There's
character.
essentially two different characters. Like they're Batman and Bruce Wayne, or they're Spider-Man and Peter Parker.
And
Like,
you got Peter Parker's the nervous kid, the smart geeky kid that has problems socially, and then when he becomes Spider-Man, he's cutting up jokes and jumping around and he's being funny and stuff. But then when he becomes Peter Parker again, it's like two different characters. And Bruce Wayne is the playboy billionaire, and
I think he's zillionaire now, isn't he?
something ridiculous.
He's really rich.
I think he's surpassed billionaire by now.
He's got some money.
And then he becomes Batman, and he's just completely different person altogether. You kind of questions, at least on the Batman Bruce Wayne aspect, is who's really being the fake? Is it who's the real person there? And that's that kind of whole dilemma of Batman movies. But Spider-Man, he's very relatable to adults and kids and stuff, because he has problems just like we all do. And I think with my opinion of the newer Spider-Man movie, at least the first one, because I haven't seen the second one yet, is that he's not as relatable. He's cool and running around, and
He's like Zach Morris.
Yeah.
Almost. From Saved by the Bell, he's like Zach Morris.
yeah. But you just kind of like, I watched the first one, I was kind of like, eh. But then I really liked the first two, the Tobey Maguire ones. I love that one. Obviously, the third one went off on a way crazy tangent, but
Like the dancing in the street, like
yeah,
that kind of thing.
That scene was
They
kind
do
of
like Bee Gees.
that
and
was jumping the shark.
Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah,
and stuff.
that was jumping the shark in the movie world.
It's kind of ridiculous.
I thought you brought up a good comparison, like where they both had tragic stories, and I think that's kind of where they're missing the mark is. Spider-Man is a very tragic hero. If you look at his comic books and his history and everything, he doesn't have a very glamorous life, and not that a lot of heroes do, but it kind of seems like he has more than the usual. Losing a family members, never quite getting, the girl that he wants, or even losing the girl in some comic books. He has a very tragic story than I would say than most superheroes. And when you look at the movies, it's kind of feels like it's upbeat, like you said, with the dancing, or he's funnier than what he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be more sarcastic than he is funny.
Yeah, it's like the actual Spider-Man characters bleeding into his Peter Parker character.
Exactly.
It's kind of strange.
Well, just think as being Spider-Man, say if you were a superhero, but being a superhero doesn't earn you any income. So you're being a superhero on the side, but then you're also doing your normal day job. That's what Spider-Man is, and that's why I think he's so relatable, where you never hear these other superhero characters having like money problems and can't buy a car and things like that. So I think that's why, me personally, out of all my comic book collection, I have more Spider-Man comics than I do of any other ones, just because he seemed so much more of a relatable character to me.
Even more so than Bruce Wayne, who's a
Bajillion,
playboy,
yeah.
Bazillion.
He's who I want to be,
Yeah.
but I'm really closer to Peter Parker.
I want to be Bruce Wayne, but I'd rather be Spider-Man than Batman.
So good stuff. And
Do you have anything else?
That's it as far as like movies. As games go, I'm still playing the bejesus out of Dark Souls 2. I'm working on my PS3. I actually finished my first playthrough on PS3 today, and working on getting stuff set up for New Game Plus and getting the Platinum Trophy and everything. And it's so good. I love that game so much. I have a problem. I know.
You do. You have a problem. He, for y'all that don't know Will, just a little bit more insight into this guy. He has it for, well, first of all, he has Demon Souls, which is only on one platform, of course, the PS3.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has Dark Souls, which he has for all three, the 360, PS3, and the PC. And then now Dark Souls 2 is out.
I've got it on all three platforms.
And he's got it on all three platforms. And I'm pretty sure you've like maxed out the achievements on all of them so far, except for the latest Dark Souls 2.
Yeah, I got the Platinum for Demon Souls, Platinum on Dark Souls, and 100% the achievements for Xbox and PC. 100% the achievements on Dark Souls 2, and I'm working on Platinum for PS3 on Dark Souls 2 right now. And yeah, and it's so good. The reason like I'm into the game so much is there's not really anything else like it. I kind of didn't get into Demon Souls at first, but Dark Souls was like a lot more accessible than Demon Souls was, but still not that accessible. And I started playing it at a time where I was kind of getting bored with gaming, I guess. And there's like too much of the same stuff coming out, and then this game was just like, there's no hand holding at all, which seems like most games do nowadays, like handhold, and this game just kicked my ass over and over again. And man, it was awesome.
I didn't mean to press the button.
It makes me sound like a bit of a masochist, I guess, but yeah, it's so good. I absolutely love that game.
So all the time they spent on making games that kind of like tutorials and walkthroughs and stuff, they just skipped that altogether and
pretty much
just made your bosses
compared to
hard.
Like I'm also playing Assassin's Creed 4 right now, so compared to that game, which about 5 or 6 hours in, I was still seeing tutorials in the game. It's like, come on, man.
You still see them at the end of the game. They still show.
That's ridiculous.
They still pop the little messages on the side. By the way, if you want to disarm somebody, do this.
Make sure you use the right thumbstick to control the camera.
I've been disarming people for 10 hours.
Gosh.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it was just really refreshing. And it kind of seems like, especially with Dark Souls 2, like the industry is kind of taking notice. There's a few games that are, look kind of comparable as far as style of game that are coming out, which I'm all about. I can bring on the saturation of that kind of game.
Yeah, I mean I would say that's a good game.
Tired of it.
Yeah.
I haven't played Demon Souls, but I have played the first Dark Souls. Beat it. Was kind of into it, kind of not. Like I beat it.
We co-opted almost the entire game.
We did,
yeah.
And maybe
which was kind of a pain in the ass to do because of how the multiplayer system was set up.
Oh, it was terrible. Did you lay it down yet?
Are you in this area?
In this area? No, I don't see it.
Oh, that was
put it down again.
Gosh,
we spent like 30 minutes just trying to connect. And
then you went through Dark Souls 2 pretty much solo.
I did. Well, solo in the sense that we didn't really get a chance to play it together because of our work schedules, but I did play it with other people. And I thought that was really enjoyable.
He cheated on you.
I'm
heartbroken.
I have some bad news, Will. I found another. No.
I need more beer.
Because, in a sense, most of it I could do by myself, but when I got to the point where I needed some help, and I had help there, and granted, little spoiler alert, it made the bosses harder. But I didn't feel like that it was still unattainable because if you got enough people with you, up max 2, and then they were good, you could I don't care how tough the boss was, it felt like it was doable.
Like stomp them sometimes even.
Exactly, and I thought that was really enjoyable because I didn't want to play the whole game with somebody. Mm-hmm. I wanted to kind of do it on myself, but I liked the fact that if I did need help. The help was, very accessible.
Right. That's kind of like the thing with this game. I mean, not to go off topic a little bit, but people are kind of scared off by, the marketing of it saying like how difficult it is. But I mean, once you learn how to play it, it's not that bad. And you have a lot of ways to make the game quite a bit easier. It's just how much time are you willing to put in? It's just a big time investment compared to other games.
Yeah, because it's hard, as opposed to, picking up a quick handheld or your iPad or something and,
There's
You
no
know,
pause.
Yeah, you can pause it, or you can even, come to a stopping point and just, pick up where you left off. Where with Dark Souls 1 and 2, and I'd imagine
Demon
Demon
Souls
Souls
is
is
the
like the
same.
same.
Mhm.
You got to put some time into it. You just can't sit down and, put 15, 30 minutes into it and expect to achieve anything or even learn anything.
Well, it's hard to just play the game for that long of a time for me. Like I can't play for that long. I'll go into the game like I'm just gonna get through this area, farm some stuff, or get this one item, and I end up like I'm just gonna do this other thing real quick. And I'm just gonna do this other thing real quick. It's hard to not put in a lot of time into the game once you kind of click with the game.
And I say very rewarding in the sense that, you get your butt handed to you several times. So, there's going to be areas where you die, and then you die, and then you die again. And it gets frustrating, but the thing that keeps me coming back is I expect it to be frustrating, and that's why I like it so much, because when I actually do beat it, I have that over sense of accomplishment, that I did this. And I'm usually flipping off the TV and
Suck it!
and I'm like, I did it! You couldn't take me! I'm the man!
Even though you've beaten me for like the past 3 hours, I finally beat you this one time.
Exactly. And my wife and kids are laughing at me and looking at me weird, and are like, what's going on? It's like, you wouldn't understand, hon. You wouldn't understand. You didn't go through this epic battle that I went through that was just mind-boggling awesome.
Now make me a sandwich.
It made me a sandwich. And
All
then
right,
there's another epic battle in itself.
Oh man. Well, that's enough about. I've talked too much about what I've been doing. Josh, you go. What you been doing?
So you mentioned Assassin's Creed 4. I did finish that actually today. I sat down and plundered through it all, and finally
I see what you did there.
I finished
Pirate.
it. And for someone who's played all the Assassin's Creed with not playing Liberation on the Vita,
I don't think that one counts.
no, I played it, but I didn't finish it, so I don't know, story-wise how that goes. But I got to the end of Assassin's Creed 4, and I'm not trying to spoil anything for anybody, but I was just kind of,
Earmuffs. Okay.
yeah, I was just kind of like, okay. It seemed very anticlimactic to me, that normal build-up that I got when I played Assassin's Creed 2 or Brotherhood or even Revelations. I was more excited about those than I am with this character. And I love the setting, the boats, the ship navigation, and like the upgrades, and you going through like the entire Caribbean, and taking new territories and things. I like that stuff of it. I like doing the upgrades. But like the storyline just didn't keep me interested.
Yeah, that's what I've been. I'm playing that too right now, and I've got my ship and everything, and I've got like my little marker on where to proceed with the next story. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this, but then all the stuff pops up on my map. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go do this.
There's plenty of side stuff to do, and you can play the game and just do all these side stories, and you can do that for hours. You can put so many hours of the game into it. But when you got to the main story missions, one, I had a hard time understanding like when the pirates spoke. Sometimes I can't figure out exactly what they're saying.
So you get those subtitles
It's
on.
so like heavy, like
I'm gonna plug
that-
this
get
over
that-
there, and I'm gonna get this loot, and something.
You got that Johnny Depp speak going
yeah,
on.
exactly. And I couldn't get a good sense of the storyline. I figured it out, and I knew what the main mission was. But then when you got through it, I was just, I am curious to see what happens with the new ones and how that translates. I'm not quite sure why they decided to go back a generation and watch, this character from, Assassin's Creed 3. I'm not sure why they did that.
It's kind of strange, like, because the way the third one ends, like getting invested in the story again, without giving anything away. It's like, why am I still playing the game in this format?
Yeah.
I don't know. Does like the way the game end up going? Does it kind of set up other? Does it kind of like leave it hanging for other games?
No, basically at the end, it gives you a connection between Assassin's Creed 4 and Assassin's Creed 3, as in
Like present day stuff that happens?
No. It pretty much shows you, and this isn't really spoiling anything to a sense, because you know how the lineage goes. You basically see little Nathan that grows up. You see little Nathan when he's little, but you don't find out how he got to that point at the beginning of Assassin's Creed 3. Doesn't tell you any of that stuff.
It's kind of like they should have came up with the fourth one before the third one, story wise.
Right.
But the gameplay,
the gameplay is so much better in 4 than 3.
Yeah.
My only thing, because 3 has gotten a lot of flack. I love the hunting system in the third one.
You can hunt in the fourth one.
I know, but I think it was better presented in the third. I felt like I had more options in the third one.
I
for
come
hunting.
down on a little iguana, like with my hidden blade. I mean, that's or a rat. You can do that with a rat too. You're like, bam!
I just
I'm gonna skin you now.
I really like that hunting aspect and how the whole pelt and like the economy system that it had going on there.
You can do like the different pelts and stuff and get like the extra gun holsters and like all the extra like patch and stuff in the armor. You can do all that stuff.
See, I didn't do the whole lot of the hunting stuff in 3 just because I got so fed up with the game. I got really frustrated with that game, and I just didn't do any of the side stuff.
Or the wood stuff is so large and expansive
and really buggy for me. Like I had so many,
you told me about
so many bugs with that game.
Well, I remember you telling they did correct that in the patch.
They did.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to go back and kind of do some of the side stuff again, but I don't know. I just kind of sat down with 3 and just hammered out the storyline, and I didn't really do any of the side stuff, which was the first time in any Assassin's Creed that I didn't do the side stuff.
I'm not going to say the third one was the best by no means, because I really loved the fourth one. I thought it was great, and I don't think that one was the best one either. But
which one, just for the record?
I really enjoyed the second one. I think that's to me that was
my
the
favorite
best.
too.
Well, that's where they kind of turned the corner from the first one to the second one, because I would be telling people, yeah, the first one's good. Just I know it's repetitive, but just get through it because you'll like it. Just get through it, and you'll like it. And then when you play the second one, you'll be glad that you played the first one. That is kind of the way I explained it to people.
But just the story too, because I mean, Assassin's Creed, Revelations, it was good, but it kind of felt like they just kept hanging on to the success of the second one. They were riding the coattails of Ezio into, where they couldn't drain any more from it. And
it feels like it should have just stayed with Brotherhood. Like Brotherhood and Revelations could have really been the same.
It could have been the same game.
The same game.
Maybe like some DLC or something.
They could have shortened the Revelations and just put the storyline for that. I mean, the thing I do like about Revelations is it does finish the storyline
in a good way,
and it does connect Altair to Ezio, and it has that whole connection, which I don't think they've done as well with Assassin's Creed 3 and Assassin's Creed
they did a good
4.
job of tying stuff up with Revelations. I'll give that game that, but it was definitely it felt kind of phoned in for the first part of the game anyway, especially like the tower defense stuff.
Yeah,
that was kind of awful.
Did you think it just skipped that part? I did like old Ezio still kicking butt.
That was awesome.
And taking people out.
Still like a ladies' man. He's having like after he like kills a bunch of people, he goes to meet the chick to have the picnic.
Yeah.
He's like, how you doing?
Like, exactly.
Yeah, I just did that over there. Don't let the gray fool you. I'm still a beast.
Besides that, I did play. I got my first chance at playing some Titanfall, and for a game that is $60, that's essentially an online game. I was actually pretty surprised about how much I stayed with it. I didn't get bored with it as quickly as I thought I would. We've all had the online games that came out in the past that people would play it for the first couple weeks and then it'll just kind of die off. Besides those few stragglers, a couple of them that come to mind, like Mag and like Shadowrun. And like the SOCOM.
Yeah.
Besides them being really buggy and some of those are really bad produced, but they didn't last very long as far as like.
It's hard when that's the main focus of your game.
It was online
to keep that fresh for people when they don't have like a single player to play through.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of challenge that MMOs have. Is granted, you're paying $15 a month with Titanfall. As long as you have a Xbox Live subscription. So it's not as bad in that money ratio. It's what, $3 a month versus $15 a month. If even that, I think that even that's kind of the year membership. So, I totally agree. I love Titanfall. I can't seem to put it down, and I love shooters. I'll probably almost get every shooter out there just because I enjoy that type of that genre. But with what?
Genre.
That's what I said. That's what I said. Genre.
Keep going.
So, But I keep going back to that, to where other ones like the Call of Duty, or like you said, the Ghost Recon, or other ones of that nature. I'll play it hardcore for a couple months, and then it kind of goes up on the shelf and it stays there. Where at Titanfall, I'm constantly getting it out.
Yeah, and I don't even play shooters that often. Like if I play a shooter, it's just for single player. But Titanfall is really fun. I really enjoyed that one.
And I wonder if part of it is it runs so much faster on Xbox One versus the multiplayer games we're used to on the Xbox 360. Is if the game loads up faster and you get into the game quicker, then won't that make you kind of stay a little more into it? The longer you're sitting there and loading screens and finding players, the sooner you're going to just get tired of it and go to the next game.
It's like you're always doing something.
Yeah.
Like you're always playing the game, which is a problem with with multiplayer games, because you always have that break in between each match.
Mm-hmm.
So Titanfall flows really well. It's also really accessible to people who don't normally play shooters like myself online, as I can actually feel like I contribute to a match, as opposed to like in Call of Duty where I'll go like 2-15 or whatever.
Cannon fodder.
Yeah, I'm just like, I just get shot all the time. But Titanfall, because it mixes in like the bots and stuff with different degrees of AI, you get points for even killing them, and you still get your Titan pretty quickly. And
so even like a bad shooter player would still get accomplished because they at least take out like the AI in the game, and everyone gets a Titan at some point during the match anyway. If you're on the right game.
Yeah, and you can easily take down a Titan too.
Yeah,
which it's pretty satisfying to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It does a really good job of kind of bringing in different. Like it's easy, it's accessible enough for people who aren't good and new to shooters, but it's also deep enough.
And I think they had to do that for the Xbox One because, let's face it, there's not a whole lot of games out for it at the moment. And so they came out with some type of a shooter game that multiple people can play, because obviously they want to sell that game because they'll sell the console. Of course, I think right now there's a lot of Xbox One bundles that come with Titanfall.
Yeah.
That come with it. So they want you to get into it. They want you to get interested enough in it, because when that next shooter comes out, they want you to go buy that one. And
Microsoft wants to be like, hey, look what we got on our system that anyone can really play and have fun with.
That's an exclusive, so obviously they want to try to sell that exclusive title to make you buy that system versus the other one. But that's a topic for another day. The last thing I did was the season finale of Walking Dead came out a couple weeks ago, so I decided to go back and actually read the Walking Dead comics.
Look at you reading stuff.
I know. Well, there's pictures in it, so
okay.
It doesn't count.
There's some words in there, but I read volumes 1 through 11, which pretty much gets you up to this point in the TV series, although some of it's kind of like not exactly in sequence of the comic books. And the thing I found...
Or graphic novels? Would they be considered graphic novels?
Yeah, you can call it graphic novel. Yeah.
For our technical
Because
viewers out there?
you call them volumes, so you're talking about graphic novel volume. So I would say versus like an individual comic.
It's like hentai.
Like what?
What?
Moving on.
Okay. So the thing that I found most interesting is if you just watch just the TV show in itself, there's characters that don't make it very long, and there's some characters that last, have been through the entire season. If you watch the TV show and then you go back and read the comic books, some characters are drastically different than what their TV counterparts are. Some characters, even through this volume that I have, died a long time ago in the TV show, and vice versa. And different ways that they died, one character might die in the TV show, he didn't die that way, but then another character in the comic book died that way. So you can kind of look at, they're doing the TV show off the comic, so you kind of look at the comic book as like the kind of like their guidelines, but then some things don't transition into the TV show very well. Some of the storylines, how it's kind of back and forth, some of the dialogue just wouldn't be very entertaining if you put that on the TV show format. It's just very interesting to see some of the characters. I think Rick is, like, just for the main character, Rick, I think he's more of a badass almost in the TV show than he is in the comics. And sometimes in the comics, he seems like he kind of wimps out in certain things.
Well, it seems like too, like some of the like storylines that are there, like make for better TV, so they kind of draw out like the characters for a little while longer than they would normally do. Like, the different things happen with Shane in the comic book as opposed to in the show, just because that made for better TV.
Yeah.
So they kind of feed on that a little bit longer.
What's funny is I've been watching the TV series. Of course, I haven't watched the latest season due to I'm watching some other stuff right now. But it was funny you're talking about the volumes. I actually have the volumes too, and I haven't read far enough into them to coincide with the TV series. But the first little bit that I have read, I noticed some differences just right off the bat. It wasn't just like I got into like volume 2 or 3 before I noticed some differences. It was like in the first couple of pages that I noticed it. And it wasn't bad.
Well, it's good because it's like a different experience at that point. Like you don't really know still what's going to happen at that point, because anything could really happen because it's different.
And don't get me wrong, I think that's what's good about it, is because I like the TV series a lot, but I feel like you said, I can go back and read the volumes and still retain some mystery to the TV show that I don't have any spoilers. So I don't feel like I have to get to a point and then stop. I feel like I can get to a point, and even though the show might be similar, they might throw a curveball in there, which is okay, and will still make for an enjoyable experience.
I think would be a good way to do it if you decide to do this. Obviously, we're not going to have another Walking Dead TV show until October, but if you went through and read all the Walking Dead volumes that are out there, then when that happens on the TV show, it's not really going to spoil it for you, but you can go, oh, that's really cool how they did that just like they did in the comic book.
Right.
Some of the ways that some characters died were really cool in the comic book, but in the TV show, it might not be that character. It could be a different character entirely. And just just the way the dynamic is from the TV show and comic books are very interesting. You think about Game of Thrones. They're going to start changing some stuff in the Game of Thrones TV show that's not in the books. Because I'm reading the books right now, and they're going to start changing stuff up in the TV show that's not going to match up with the book, and then people aren't going to be able to kind of spoil things anymore. So it's interesting because you get the book or the comic book and you make a TV show or movie out of it, but then that's really just a guideline. They can change it.
Yeah, based on this work.
Where it works in TV.
We're interpreting that to make it entertaining for mass audience in a shorter kind of time frame than you have to really sit down and read. Like with Game of Thrones, like a 800-page book.
Exactly.
Turned into like a 10-episode season.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Some good topics. I'm going to kind of go in a little different direction because as far as movies goes, I haven't really been keeping up with them. Want to. It's kind of hard to do with kids that are super, super young. You don't want to take a crying baby to a movie.
Yeah. It's usually rare too that I get to watch a new release. I usually wait for like dollar theater.
Yeah.
Or even just DVD, Blu-ray releases, but
I'm gonna go a little different here. I've been playing Titanfall 2, but the main stuff I've been playing lately is the indie games and the arcade games, and not just on Xbox 360 or the one that's available on Xbox One right now, but
Halo 2.
Yeah, or the PS4 and PS3 as well. I kind of went through this point. It was maybe about a year or two back that for whatever reason, my family and friends for like Christmas and birthday or any kind of a special occasion that year, I only got Microsoft points and PlayStation Plus points, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. I totally love those gifts, but I had an overabundance of it, so I would just buy so many games.
You can give me some.
Yeah,
and
I'll take some.
and never got around to playing them. I play a one or two. But I've been playing Monkey Island, the Double Dragon Neon, even though a lot of people think it was terrible. I thought it was great. The Shank 1 and 2, How to Survive, just a lot of the indie games and arcade games, and I think those have been very enjoyable, not because I want to get the achievements or the trophies. I want to get the achievements and trophies, but it's just nice to sit down and play a game that kind of feels old school and has been kind of making me reminisce a little bit about how I played these type of games.
Nostalgic.
Yeah, nostalgic.
Oh, yeah, people making these games are making them for a really different reason. They're being like, they have all their creative freedoms to make their games with and not have like a publisher looking over their shoulder and micromanaging their every, click of the mouse or move whatever they're doing. So you really see that someone's actually put effort into, these games.
There's been some really creative indie games that, we would have never seen if they had the same type of restrictions that your mainstream blockbuster games have nowadays. We would never see those type of games.
And what's really been enjoyable about it is I do have young kids, but they are at that age to where they can play video games. And again, I'm going to go back to the Double Dragon Neon. A lot of people give it flack. I know I got bad reviews, but I have a lot of fun with it because I remember the old school Double Dragon games. But what I particularly liked about this one is my son. I got to play it with my son. And he's okay. He's still young, and the controller is bigger than his hands. But he could actually play that game, and it was an enjoyable experience to be able to play a game like that with my son. That it was appropriate for him to watch. I didn't have to like with Grand Theft Auto or Call of Duty, or Dark Souls even, that I enjoy playing, but I don't want to play around my kids, that I could play this game. It's appropriate for him to a degree. You are fighting. And he got enjoyment out of it too. It wasn't too hard for him, and we went through a couple levels through each other. And I had more fun doing that here lately than any other games that's come out. And I love the game, like Infamous Second Son. Awesome game. Love it. That could be a whole nother segment in its own. The Dark Souls 2, the Titanfall. I really enjoyed them. In fact, I picked them up day one, and I got them and played them. But these indie games and these arcade games, just the fact that I could play it with my son and my daughter, who's even younger, I don't know, just it made for a very enjoyable experience. And so I've been doing that lately. So here in probably the next, even more weeks, I'm probably going to keep playing those. And when my kids, come home, I want to play with them too. So that's what I've been really enjoying lately. And if you haven't tried it, go pick up an old indie or arcade game lately.
Yeah, sometimes I'm just in the mood to play like kind of a easier just to jump in and play for a quick minute style of game like the Double Dragon Neon or like Scott Pilgrim.
Yes.
Which is the same kind of style, which is just a fun, easy, simple game to just get on there and just not even really think about, really just play and have fun.
And then maybe that's why the Wii and the Wii U are so popular, just because of those niche games that are kind of like that old arcade style.
Well, I think you kind of stretch that popular word with Wii and Wii U.
I don't know. People, if you come out the Mario game, or Mario Kart or Mario Party, people are gonna buy that console just for those games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because of that nostalgic old school. It's not too serious, not too complicated. You just sit down and just play.
Yeah, Mario's one of those things that kind of bridges generations. Like 50 or 60-year-old people buy Wii's and just play Mario on them with their kids and their grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really see like that kind of thing happening with Halo or Call of Duty. A little bit, but not on the same level though. No. Not on the same level.
It's funny you bring up. I did try Halo, and it's the cutest thing in the world to watch my son play because he does like just every other kid is he's looking at the sky and
he
he's
just
like,
spins around
and he's just shooting at random stuff. Like I tell you, he's killed every rock in the game. There's no rock left alive. But what's really funny is every now and then he does something and he'll get a kill. And I'm not one to have my headset on, but when he does that, I instantly run to my headset, pick it up, and I'm like, dude, my son just owned you. Randomly. Go trade in your game because you don't deserve to play this anymore.
Just shut up. I'm going to report you cheating.
So awesome topics, things that we're playing and things of that nature. And you, the listeners, let us know what you think is the awesome thing that you've been playing lately or experiencing, no matter what that is. Let us know on, like I said, Facebook or Twitter, freshly-squeezed.com. Let us know, and who knows, maybe we'll pick one of those for our next podcast topic. Or also, too, maybe we'll even try it out and see what we think, and we'll give you our opinions. So we're going to take just a little bit of break. And when we come back, we're going to hit the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of our podcast. And we will let you know what that is in a moment. Welcome back.
That was terrible.
We will get better, I promise.
Probably not.
So hopefully,
We've reached the peak of our talents as far as singing is concerned.
I hope you like the first part of our little segment, podcast, our memoirs, so to speak. Yeah, irrigation. And now for our main topic, because we can kind of talk a little bit about everything, but kind of our focus on this particular podcast. And I think it's not been a question that's been raised yet, or maybe it has and people just don't want to touch it, but my concern is old or last gen games, whatever you want to call it, on next gen or new console systems. And what I mean by that is, I know it's new systems, the Xbox One, PS4, but they've been out since October of last year, 2013. And here we are in May, and granted, the first year is always kind of rough. You got some few good ones that came out: Infamous Second Son, Titanfall. A few other good ones like Watch Dogs is getting ready to come out, but not quite yet. Killzone, Dark Souls 2. So there have been some good games out there.
That was only on last gen.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That wasn't
correct.
Put
Sorry.
On current gen, I guess is what you would
Failure.
say.
I know, failure. I'm so into Dark Souls, so much into Dark Souls that it should be on a next gen. But porting in, or whatever you want to call it, from the 360 and PS3, and what I mean by that, Tomb Raider, the latest Tomb Raider. They just announced that the Mass Effect trilogy is going to come out. And
Last of
The Last of Us, they just announced is going to be coming out on the PS4. And granted, The Last of Us was a great game, but
I mean, even kind of saw the porting kind of when the system came out with Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty, Battlefield. You still kind of saw that because it's the exact same game. Madden.
Well, my question to you, gentlemen, is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Or is it a necessary evil? What's your thoughts on it? We're going to start with Josh. So we got you last time, Will.
So I think a lot of it is them trying to fill up stuff while they're making these new games that are coming out. And I'm sure most of these developers have had the console, at least the development console, for a year and a half, 2 years, I would think. Or at least had some type of version of it to where they can actually start working and programming on. But those are probably restricted to your first-party developer companies. The companies that make your exclusive games on those consoles have probably had it longer than some of these other companies, say like Activision or EA or some of the other third-party companies. So to generate revenue for these new games coming out, they have to come out with these kind of filler things to kind of give you something to play while they're making these newer games. They kind of did that on the last gen as well. Thinking about 360, PS3, they came out with, Uncharted 1 and 2, and then towards the end of the console cycle, they came out with a package that came with 1 and 2 of them again. So it wasn't even like a port over. They just they just repackage it and put them together and gave you like a better discount. The God of War trilogy they came out with, they've done this before, so it's not too surprising that they're doing this again. I think you're going to see more of that in this console cycle than you did the last one, because Xbox, PlayStation 2 are so much different than the Xbox 360 and PS3. I think these consoles are similar in a way where you're going to see probably more port overs than you did before. Some of it's probably good because there's some games I probably wouldn't mind playing again. I'll be curious to see what Mass Effect 1 looks like on the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4. But, if it's just better graphics and they're not going to give me anything else to spend my money to buy the game again.
Yeah, I would hope at least with Mass Effect. I know like Last of Us it's coming with all the DLC, right? So hopefully, I don't remember seeing anything that said the Mass Effect one's going to come with all the DLC. I would assume it would. Because how else are you going to get it? Because I don't know if they'll offer that on the marketplace or not on the Xbox One marketplace. So,
well, you raise a good point. On The Last of Us, they instantly, hey, it's coming out with all the DLC. With the Mass Effect, it's like, well, you're going to get the trilogy. No hint or anything of the DLC.
If they actually just port over the trilogy, all you're going to get is the trilogy. You're not necessarily going to get the DLC, because when they released the trilogy, Mass Effect trilogy, it was just like the Cerberus Network pass and like the thing for Mass Effect 3. So it was just like the day one DLCs essentially is what you got. You didn't get the extra like future DLCs for it.
Yeah, Mass Effect 1 that only had two. It had two.
Yeah.
And one wasn't very much at all. It was very small. But, that game came out in 2007. That might be hard to play on a newer console now after we've seen Mass Effect 2 and 3 and just how games are much better as far as gameplay wise. That might be a hard game to play through. So what incentive are you giving me to buy this trilogy again? Buy these games that I already own, in my game library I already have sitting there. Why would I want to buy this again for a newer console? Are the graphics going to be that much better to be worth it? I wouldn't think so.
It's kind of hard because it's series like Mass Effect where, I've put hundreds of hours into multiple playthroughs. I don't know if the promise of better graphics is going to be enough to get me personally to play it again, but for the casual player who may not have played all the Mass Effect games, probably, yeah.
The last couple years of the Xbox 360 and PS3, we're going to have a lot more of those games being ported over to the new consoles because those are closer in graphics comparison to the Xbox One, PlayStation 4. They're not going to look as bad as a port over as, say, Mass Effect 1 that came out in 2007. I wouldn't be surprised if the last 2 or 3 years of the Xbox and PS3, you're going to have lots of remakes coming over just as a filler.
Let me ask you this then, and then I want to get Will's opinion. So would you say that you're okay with it or not okay with it?
I'm okay with it in the fact that there's a lot of people out there that probably never played those games, and this would be a good opportunity to play those games for the first time because those consoles aren't backwards compatible, so they can't go and buy those games now that they have a PS4 and Xbox One. But now, because of great marketing and them wanting the almighty dollar, they're going to come out with these games that have already been made for that people can play. So I'm okay with it because it doesn't really affect me. So I might buy some of them, I might not, but it's going to give people opportunity to play these games because their thinking process is that, hey, we're going to come out with these Mass Effect trilogy games so that when the sequel comes out, we're going to have more people buy Mass Effect 4 because we came out with this trilogy pack for these new consoles that some people have never played this set before. Same thing with, I'm sure they're going to come out with a God of War set that's going to be on the PlayStation 4 or the Infamous and all the other ones that are coming out. They're doing that to make it easier for when these sequels come out that they're going to grab people onto it. I'm okay with that because that means we get better content for those sequels.
Okay, so we got Josh. He's for it. Okay, so question to you, Will. What do you think about it first before you tell us if you're for it or not for it? What are your thoughts?
See, some of my thoughts on it are depending on if it's done really well and not just like a lazy port. I kind of felt like with Tomb Raider that was kind of a lazy port. Yeah, again, it came with all the DLC, but all the DLC was multiplayer, which is by far the worst part of the game. It's a fantastic single player game.
It wasn't that bad. We kind of played multiplayer together on
just
that.
to like get achievements and stuff. Like it's not a strong multiplayer. But the game itself, they didn't add anything to it. Like the graphics looked really good, but it didn't look any better than like what was on the PC at that point. But I mean, if you didn't get the chance to play it the previous year, of course, being at $60 though might be a bit too steep when you can get it on PS3 or 360 for half the price with no additional, single player content. But in the case of The Last of Us that's coming out, I think that's a brilliant idea for Sony to do that, because a lot of Xbox 360 people didn't get a chance to play that game on PS3 because they didn't have PS3s. And you see a lot of people who had 360s jumping ship to the PS4. I mean, that's what happens. Like a lot of people got PS4s over Xbox Ones who had 360s.
And that was all because of what Microsoft said they were going to do with the Xbox One, and that pissed a lot of people off. Mm-hmm. And plus the price point's $100 more, and that whole, you can only play the game once on that console, registration.
They kind of alienated a lot of their fan base.
They pissed some people off.
Yeah, so Sony's like, all right, yeah, come to us. We'll sell you our console. And hey, here's this game that came out last year that won all these Game of the Years. Won all this Game of the Year. Won all these Game of the Year awards. People talked about it all year, and it was only on our console that you didn't get a chance to play. Now you can buy it. And I think they're going to sell a ton of those copies on it.
And currently in May, the last report I've seen is they have sold more PlayStation 4s than Xbox One. PlayStation's winning the console war.
Yeah, they've already sold over like 7 million
quote unquote
systems.
Console. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you go into a store, you have plenty of Xbox Ones, but you're always running short on PlayStations.
Yeah, because I mean, you always see like stacks of Xboxes everywhere because people are buying PS4s
with a free copy of Titanfall.
Yeah, with a free Titanfall. But yeah, I think it's that part of it is really good. But I mean, in the case of Mass Effect, I don't know. Those games have been out for so long on both systems. It seems like more of an advertisement for the new Mass Effect than an actual
that's
thing. Which you bring up a good point where it gets people excited about the series again, and gives people a chance to play all three of them. A chance to play all three of them in one. I'd say they're probably just going to be on 3 separate discs, just like all in one place.
Possibly. You look at some of the other, big sequel games out there. I have a feeling they're probably going to do something like that with the Assassin's Creed series.
Oh yeah,
they're going to do something with that. They won't do that for Call of Duty because there'll just be a new Call of Duty game out every year. You think about Infamous and like Killzone and Halo. They're going to port some of that stuff over. On the 360, they came out with the Halo Combat Evolved. They redone that. Actually, I thought that was
really well done.
That was done really well.
It did a great job of showing like the leap as far as technology from original Xbox to the 360 because you had the button.
You can transfer it back between the two. So I think if they do ports like that, I mean that would be great. But then they're not going to do it for all of them. So they're going to see like Halo 2 and possibly like Halo 3 and 4 on Xbox One as a good game to play. Like I said, to get people excited for the next one because it may be a couple years before there's a next Halo,
right,
or a next Mass Effect, or Assassin's Creed. Well, Assassin's Creed are going to be a new one this year,
right?
But when do they come out? Because I mean, okay, you got the new Tomb Raider, which already came out, so that doesn't really play a factor. But
The Last of Us is supposed to be later this summer, I think.
Okay, so later this summer, then Mass Effect.
They haven't said on Mass Effect.
So when they come out,
you got Dragon Age coming out in October, so you got to assume Mass Effect will probably be the next fall. Would be my guess.
You'd say next fall or even probably the next few months. It can't really be that expensive and time consuming to port over, which is essentially like if it was like anything like Tomb Raider. I mean, they said they worked on the graphics from the ground up, but how long did it actually take them to do that?
Oh, you're talking about the trilogy?
Yeah.
I'm thinking trilogy would probably be out either that same fall or that following spring.
Yeah, I say we've got less than a year easy for the Mass Effect. Mass Effect 4, yeah. Dragon Age is this year. I'd say, well, let's see Mass Effect late next year.
Yeah.
Well, looking up here on the latest Forbes statistics as far as PS4 sold versus Xbox One. PS4 has sold 7 million units, where Xbox One has sold 5 million units. And, that is, good in a sense, they're beating them by a couple of million, but that, it doesn't seem like it's...
Talking about 6 months, too.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have the amount of international popularity that PlayStation has compared to Xbox, because obviously PlayStation is going to sell a lot better in Japan and in the Asian countries as opposed to the Xbox
Here in the U.S.
Yeah, compared to how the U.S. sells in the U.S. and in Western Europe.
I think just the price point when Christmas comes around and mom and dad are at your local video game store and they see Xbox One, PlayStation 4, parents look at price and they see the same games on the same shelf for both consoles, and then they're going, well, little Timmy's going to get a PlayStation 4 because it's $100 cheaper. So I think that $2 million gap is a good portion is the price point, and the rest of it is the people that kind of went over to PlayStation.
I think you're going to see that Last of Us port sell really well.
I
think that's going to do probably the best out of all the ports. One, because it's going to have pretty much a lot of new customers compared to what it had just being a PS3 exclusive, because you've had people who were established PlayStation players getting this game, and now you've got all these people converting over, getting a chance to play this game. Plus, I think, these kind of ports can be, for the most part, a good thing. I mean, you're just adding games to the library. That's what people want. Mm-hmm. They want more games to play on these systems they spend $400 and $500 on. I mean, ultimately, what does it matter if it's a port? You're just you're padding the numbers and giving them more options to choose from.
Okay, so same question then. So you're for it or against it?
I'm for it. Just because, again, for me, it's another set of achievements I can get on a game that I've played a lot and I know really how to play. Dark Souls, yeah. If they did a Dark Souls port to next gen, I'd buy that day one immediately.
And I would say I'd be curious if we didn't see it as many port overs if they made them backwards compatible.
Yeah.
If industries would feel like it'd be worth their time to.
Well, you wouldn't hear as many complaints about not having stuff to play on your new systems, because you could just put in an Xbox 360 game on your Xbox One and just play, your old Mass Effect game on it.
And I would think maybe as a company, if I'm EA and they're getting ready to come out with the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, if I'm EA, I'm telling them, hey, don't make it backwards compatible because we want to do some ports on our old games. We want to send some stuff over to the next gen. Make some extra money off of games we've already made and paid for.
Yeah, because that can't be expensive at all.
No.
To do that, that's a good it's a good profit that they have to turn on.
Oh yeah.
On that stuff.
Well, I'm gonna flip a little things on you guys, and not because you both agreed on this. This was my decision from the get-go when I've been seeing this stuff, and kind of the reason why it made me choose this topic is and maybe this is just me, maybe others feel this way, I don't know, but in a way, I kind of feel like it's a slap in the face. It actually, in a way, angers me, because in the points that you guys have, hit on price point, whether that the PS4 or the Xbox, is cheaper than the Xbox One, there's still a lot of money that dish out on either one of the systems. They're great games, but here's my reasoning. I paid good money for new systems. I want some new games. Not necessarily new IPs or anything like that, but I want some next-gen stuff. I've already played the Tomb Raider. Loved it. I've played The Last of Us. Loved it. And the Mass Effects. And it's someone in my situation to where I don't play a game more than once. Not because I don't want to. Some games I probably don't want to. Some games I do, but I play games a lot, but I don't have the luxury to go back and play it again. And so I want a new game to come out. And I'm realistic in a sense that I know they just can't come out with a new game all the time, every month. But why not? In a sense that you had hit this, Josh, was that a lot of these developers and such had the the systems a year or two before it was to come out. They had the technology. Why not come out with something new? Why not break the cycle, so to speak, and say, hey, I'm going to create something new. And so I'm going to wow and dazzle so people will buy this system or buy multiple systems. Because I'm not going to, and you kind of hit on this, Will, too, I'm not going to pay $60 for a game that I've already played, especially since it's, better graphics. And, that's more of on the Tomb Raider side. But let's look at the Mass Effect and Last of Us. The Last of Us on the PS4, I probably will get, but not when it first comes out. Even though I haven't played the DLC. I really want to play the DLC. But I'm not going to spend $60 on it because it's a game I've already played. I'm going to wait till it drops down in price a little bit. At what point do I think I'd buy it? I'm not for sure. Maybe $40, $30. And then I'm going to buy it just so I can play the DLC. And that's rare even in that sense because I have already played that. The Mass Effects, they can come out with all the DLC they want for Mass Effect. And there's most of them I played, there's some that I've missed. I'm not going to buy it just because I can't put in the time of it to replay it when there's other games I could be playing. So for just me, obviously I'm against it. It angers me that why can't we have new content? Again, it doesn't have to be a new IP. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. At the same time, though, it's hard to say you want new stuff and all this. I understand, I do too, because I mean I've already played all these games except for Last of Us, but that's another story for another time. That game really pissed me off. It deleted my save about 5 hours in. I'm like, so I'm probably actually going to get the PS4 one because I'm not playing. But
they fixed it in a patch. I think we see a trim here.
Gosh, just don't play games when they first come out.
You got to get the patch.
Sometimes the patch is on day one.
Yeah. Which that's a whole nother topic. But the games now, especially like on the new systems, cost so much money to make. These are like movie budget investments, and they take teams of hundreds of people to make. And a lot more time consuming than your, last gen games because these are new tech kits that they're working with, and it's a lot harder to, make a quality product that you would want to push out, and it's really expensive. So you can kind of look at it that they're pushing these ports or releases, whatever you want to call them, to bide more time before they can make something new, to fund them making something new. And it's hard to do new IPs as well when you're spending so much money on making something. What if it flops? You put out a game that came out last generation that not a lot of people played was Enslaved. That game is fantastic. How many people actually played it though?
What game?
Enslaved. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. No one really played it, and
it was the guy that was a zebra.
Or
he had a monkey tail, yeah.
A monkey tail.
It's actually based off the same mythos that I think Dragon Ball Z is based off of, that main character. I think. I think I remember reading that somewhere. I'm totally making that up. I don't know. But yeah, I mean something like that costs a lot of money to make, and it's a great game, but it flopped because
that's why you see so many sequels
and stuff, and
that's why you see the same games every year.
Yeah, and they're already established to come out at a certain time.
Yeah.
So that's when you're going to see them. I've never understood why they don't start releasing stuff, which they're actually doing now with Watch Dogs coming out, at the end of May. It's really nice, but you're going to have a gap after that where there's nothing. Over the summer.
That summer
lull,
is
there's
terrible.
Nothing. And that's a prime opportunity to bring something out. Maybe something new could be put out then, especially thinking about it now might be a good time to do new IPs because people are looking for new things to play on their new systems. But companies are looking at it's just too expensive of a risk to take.
So many companies, publishers want the game to come out in the fourth quarter just for the Christmas sales because they don't feel like if they come out in the summer, it's going to make as much money for them if they come out during the fall. You're right. The summer's really down when it comes to titles coming out. And we even got one less this year. There's not going to be an NCAA football that typically comes out in July. So really, once the summer is over with.
They're doing flag football this year, aren't they?
Flag football.
I heard that, right?
Really?
A terrible game. So I mean,
Two-hand touch.
during the summer, we're going to have not a whole lot coming out, and then you're going to have Madden and FIFA in August and September.
Mhm.
You know, so you have to wait that long.
But I can agree, like your viewpoint, Ken, how you want something new to play. You didn't buy this $500, $400 system to play games that you've already played on your old systems that you could just go and buy for like Mass Effect. You could probably buy all three for like $20.
Yeah.
You know,
That's my point. Okay, so let's go back to The Last of Us. Love the game. And talking about the price point that you talked about, Will, with Tomb Raider, if it comes out $60, I'm not going to get it when it first comes out. But let's say that maybe, you said, you're right, it's cheap to port in that game. So instead of charging $60 right off the bat, why not charge maybe $45, or let's dare I say $30? If they came out for $30 on the PS4 right off the bat, I would instantly buy it.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people would, as opposed to waiting to that price point to drop.
yeah, you got to see like how it compares to how much the current game costs already. Because you saw that with Tomb Raider when Tomb Raider came out, $60 on Xbox One and PS4, but I think on 360 or your PS3 it was probably down to like $20, maybe $30 at that point.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, so why would you pay $60 for essentially the same game that comes with all the multiplayer DLC that you're not going to touch, that you've already played? There's no reason to play through it again because there's nothing new.
Have you played The Last of Us, Josh?
Bits and pieces haven't beat it yet.
Okay. And I know...
So that being said, I will, instead of buying it on the PS3, I'm going to be buying it on the PS4.
Because
when
that
it
game,
comes out.
Last of Us, is still expensive. Like, it's still almost a new release price
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
It's like I said, if PS4 comes out and it's $60 and the PS3 version's like even $40, I think it's a good value because you get the DLC and the better graphics.
And I don't think the price point will drop on The Last of Us until after it comes out on the PS4.
Right. But again, your point though, you've already played it. So why would you even get it? Because all you want to play really is the DLC.
And I don't have a PS3 anymore due to certain circumstances. And so it's not like I can go back on my PS3 and just purchase the DLC.
Right.
But as Will, you're super hardcore about Dark Souls. Josh, I know you're a huge Mass Effect fan. Simply love, and I know I am too. But in comparison, I know that you've loved it a lot more than I have. Even played it a couple more times. What are your thoughts on that? Would you drop $60 to get all three to pay it on the next gen system, or even let's just assume, and we all know what they say about assuming, but let's just assume that it has all the DLC with it. Would you purchase it for $60 for all three games for all DLC on a next gen system?
Before I answer that, I will say that I just looked up real quick a price point for The Last of Us, and the digital PS3 version is still $60.
That's ridiculous.
That is crazy.
Why would you offer a digital game for as much as it? That's another thing. Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
And
I'll stay on topic.
Off topic.
And then I see used ones still like $55 and stuff like that. So
that's like still new retail price essentially.
Exactly. So for the Mass Effect, I've played all the DLC and all the games up until the very last Mass Effect 3 DLC. They came out with one at the very end where it had kind of a...
That's where you find Morgan with your baby?
We're talking about Mass Effect.
You're talking about Dragon Age.
You're
way off.
BioWare. No,
basically,
that was on purpose.
Basically, the last one was them taking all the characters and then kind of like
It's the Citadel DLC.
Yeah, kind of like a reunion of all the characters all at once, but it didn't really fit into the storyline at the point of I've already beat the game. So I haven't gone back and done it because some of those characters don't make it in my scenario.
They're not invited to the party.
So it didn't make sense that I did the DLC and these characters. I want to see every character in that DLC package. So I'll have to go back and play to a certain point to where I can see all those characters. It wouldn't make sense for me to play it now when some of those characters don't exist. I miss that whole interaction and cutscenes with those characters.
And it devalues it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't get as much out of it. But that being said,
$60 though for a portion of a DLC.
$60 for all 3 games and all 3 DLC and all the DLC included. Even though if I already played those games, but I no longer had my Xbox to play them on, then I would consider buying it. But it's not a guarantee. But if I had my 360 and I have all my games sitting there, in my library, probably not.
Well, they're coming out for the PS4 as well, too, right? They're coming on both consoles.
Right.
Okay.
The Mass Effect 1 as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, they did that on PS3. PS3 had Mass Effect 1 with the trilogy pack.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so it had it on there, just you couldn't buy it separate. You had to buy the trilogy to get all 3 of them.
So
the PS3 version had that digital comic of the first one when you made all the choices, but it actually wasn't Mass Effect 1.
I think it was Mass Effect 2 that came with the digital one. I'm pretty sure the PS3.
Yeah, because they did the
came
bundle. You're kind of both right. They came out with the second Mass Effect where it was a little digital comic at the beginning where you can make your choices, and that would lead into the second Mass Effect. But when they came out with the bundle actually had all 3 because that was the big deal. Where
that was the only way you could get it.
Yeah, that was the only way you can actually get the first copy on the PS3 because that was a big ordeal back then. Because when Mass Effect 2 came out, people were like, well, your decisions in the first one is supposed to affect it, but we can't play it to affect it. So they brought up that little bit of a little portion to where you can pick your decisions, which is kind of stupid. Yeah. Instead of playing your decisions, I'm going to pick my decisions.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I see it on here.
Yeah.
By the way, you can get it for like $30 on Amazon, the whole trilogy.
So yeah, again, at least it was $60 on a next gen, or versus $30 on an old gen or last gen, whatever we're calling it now.
I don't think I would.
The gen before time.
Because Mass Effect has so much time you put into it to make it worthwhile. If you just it wouldn't be worth playing if you just went straight through the storyline and you didn't engage in these characters and make different choices. So that being said, no, I wouldn't buy it. I'm kind of like you. Once I play the game, I'm never going to play it again once I beat it. So I mean, that's probably Mass Effect's probably the rare exception where I go back and play, but I don't think I would do it.
Yeah, so I put so much time. I'm not playing through Mass Effect on Insane ever again. I got all the achievements on it. I'm not doing that ever again.
No, you get one shot and your shield's gone, and then the next
terrible.
time you're dead.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's I'm with you. But that being said, Last of Us, I'm probably going to consider getting when it comes out.
I think Last of Us works because it just came out last year, and it came out, and we already knew about the new consoles. Some people are already asking the question, about Last of Us. Hey, is this going to be on the PlayStation 4? Because it's coming out so, it's coming out so towards the tail end of that console cycle. People are already asking that question before they even announced it.
If they came out with Grand Theft Auto 5 on next gen, if they ported that over, people would buy the bejesus out of that game.
Hey, well, you know what's funny on that? On the flip side, I've yet to play Grand Theft Auto 5. So that would be a game that I could see spending $60, even if the,
even if the 360 and PS3 copies are like $30-$40.
Yeah, I would pay $60 on the next gen just because I haven't played it before.
And they haven't came out with DLC for Grand Theft Auto 5.
No, it's not no paid stuff. It's all free add-ons and everything.
Multiplayer stuff.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a rare that I haven't played that game. There's circumstances why I haven't gotten that. Again, having kids and having to wait until they go to sleep before I can play it.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the big one everyone wants. I mean, you go to IGN or, Kotaku or Joystick, you'll see the comments for a while, people are like, is Grand Theft Auto 5 going to be on next gen? Why don't they put it on next gen? That's like the big one everyone wants. I think Rockstar could just print money at that point if they put it out.
I thought they did print money now, don't they?
Almost. They're almost at that level.
Well, they have their own stock exchange on Grand Theft Auto 5.
So it's a matter of time.
They're basically doing it already. Fair enough. I get it.
So, great stuff. We got 2 for it. We got me being the lone wolf, which is okay. But again, listeners, I'd like to know what your thoughts are on this old gen on new gen game titles. Again, let us know on Facebook. Let us know on Twitter. We don't quite have an email yet, or an email or a website yet.
Edit from previous segment.
Edit from previous segment. That's the sauce talk in there. And but we do have Facebook and Twitter. Let us know, and hopefully we'll post them. See what you listen to what you guys think, and we'll bring it up maybe next podcast. So we're gonna take a little break again, and we're gonna end this our first podcast, our first woo!
Yeah.
And I have a secret question that I was going to ask my co-hosts, Will and Josh. They have no idea what it's about. It could be anything. I can ask them what their favorite color is, or I can ask them anything.
Your mother.
I'm a little nervous.
So when we come back,
So as long as your pants stay on, we'll be good.
this time,
Before you ask the question.
we'll see how it goes.
Oh, God.
So keep listening, folks. Hey, we're back!
Yeah, we did it.
The recorder's still working.
It looks a bit different. That's fine.
Just ignore the smoke. So this is our last little, I don't want to say topic, but it's more of like a question that I'm going to ask you guys. So I want to know what your answer is. And just give me a quick answer and why, and then we'll move on. And then we'll ask our listeners too. So
Let's do it.
Will, my question to you
Oh,
is,
God, I'm going first.
if you could have a superpower, either from Marvel or DC side, either or, it doesn't matter.
Could be made up.
Can we make
Could be even made up. Make up your own superpower, like the Woodman.
Oh man,
Or beer guy,
I don't know
or-
if I want to say mine.
What would it be and why? And just a little bit.
You know, I've always thought that practical purpose, I would probably say like the superpower I'd want that most people would say like just like stop time completely, just stop. And I would, of course, it wouldn't stop me. I could just kind of run around and do whatever I want. That wouldn't be the good one. But I thought about it a little more, and probably just for for fun purposes, could make anyone at any time poo their pants. I mean, just think like any superhero that's chasing after you, and I look at him and point and poop their pants. Are they gonna? It's gonna be interesting to see what happens at that point.
Do they stop chasing you, or
Like, and it's not like I vary the degree of said dumpage, but I think that would be an interesting one. You never see that.
Okay. So the ability to make people poop their pants instantly.
Self-defecate.
And that's also like that could help people in a way who are suffering from
So
constipation.
be good or bad.
It could. I could
So
use
you
my
could-
powers for good
You
or
can open
evil.
up your own clinic.
I could. Like save people a ton of money on medication. All I have to do is point at you, and that I just pointed at you, and look what happened.
All right, Josh, same question. Superpower, made up, Marvel, DC, anything. What would it be?
So, like, initially when you think superpower, I think, so what would most help me now in my world? And I think the first thing that came to mind was mind control.
Ooh,
I think-
little Xavier action
Yeah.
going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Xavier could make people stop, freeze in motion. He can, like, influence them with his mind. He can talk to them, telepathically. So I think initially I would go with that just for practicality. So it'll make my job really easy,
I mean, it's a good like intelligent.
Yeah.
So it's an intelligent choice. It's not like having people poop their pants whenever.
Exactly. But so that would be my practical one. The one I would do just for fun.
Shits and giggles.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Would be I think flying. I think
Flying would be really cool.
Yeah.
No.
Just the fact
Just to
that-
enjoy it. Just it'd be fun.
I
For
mean-
you normal people, I swear I'm afraid of heights.
I mean, how fun would it be just to fly to work? How fun that would be just to go around. That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm. You can go anywhere you wanted to at that point.
And they'll save on gasoline.
Yeah, you're helping the environment.
I'd be green.
You're helping the environment.
Little
at that point.
ecosystem
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
I don't know. There's so many to choose from and make up my own, but ultimately, I think I would like to be able to possess people, anybody, and not just people, but animals. I don't mean like shape shifting. I don't want to do that. I want to actually be able to possess that person and control them, and talk and do whatever. And then when I get done, I leave. And I can do that with animals or insects or anything. Of course, I don't know why. I just thought that would be kind of cool.
You would possess like a sheep.
Maybe that's a whole other topic.
Depending on what kind of farm you're on.
Meh. But possession.
Barnes is just shaking his head.
Meh. I don't know why. I just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought about the mind possession, but I'm like, well, technically I could possess people. And on the flip side, I'll go with flying just because I'm really terrified of heights. So if I could fly, it'd be just super hilarious. I think that I'm just flying. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna fall. I'm gonna fall.
So if you
And
possess people, would you just be able to use their powers at the same time? If you're possessing
Ooh,
Josh,
yeah.
you'd be able to use his power.
But then, if you can fly, would you be afraid of heights just because you can fly?
I probably would. That's
Because
some scary shit,
Because
man.
you would never fall.
I wouldn't know that. I'm just like, I'm flying.
I
Why
would
am I
hope so.
flying?
You're the one that's the flyer. You would think you'd be able to.
Maybe. I don't know. I still wouldn't do it.
Not with that attitude.
I would maybe hover. So as we finish up, again, viewers, listeners, I'd like to know what you want your superpower to be, made up or pre-existing. And on that note, if you liked what you hear, again, like us on Facebook and Twitter. The more followers and likes we get, the bigger we can make this. And we'll do some really huge stuff because we want to show you the world.
We're ambitious.
Shimmer,
We're ready to party.
glimmering,
Ready to rock.
sparkling.
Ready to roll all night long.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're talking... Whoa, I about said some stuff. I'm talking this and that and this. No, we're not going to do that.
Until all night long until it's like 10 o'clock when it's my bedtime.
Yeah, my wife is going to kill me right now. I'm already getting bad texts. But, yeah, hopefully enjoyed us. We loved talking to you guys, and tune in next week, guys. So I'm Ken.
I'm Will.
I'm Josh.
And you've been Freshly Squeezed.